Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where every week here on MMA Junkie, we take you on a quick spin through the week's news, and we have plenty of it to get through this week. We've got the A-team with us this week, or is it A-team? I don't know. John Morgan is here, Gorgeous George is here, and Goes is here as well. And let's just get cracking, guys. Anderson Silva, the Spider, calls time on his UFC career at the weekend after his defeat to Uriah Hall at UFC on ESPN Plus 39. He still had a fight left on his contract, but it was decided that that fight would be his last in the UFC. But after the fight had finished, he kind of stopped short of calling time on his career overall, as he left the door just a little bit open for a future fight or two elsewhere. So, guys, give us your take on the Spider situation right now after the weekend and answer two questions for me. Number one, do you think he's going to fight again? And number two, if he does, where will that be? We'll put 3 minutes on the clock to get things started. And John, you can kick us off.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like the whole week long, Anderson was being careful to say my final UFC fight, right? My final UFC fight, not my final fight, period. And then I thought the post-fight interview was hilarious with Michael Bisping when he said, yeah, that was it the last time in the UFC. And Michael said, so to be clear, that's your last time fighting. And he's like, whoa, I didn't say all that now. So I think it's pretty clear where Anderson Silva's intentions are. As you said, though, the one fight on the UFC deal, and Dana White made it very clear he has no intention of fulfilling that in the UFC. So I don't think we'll necessarily see him fight mixed martial arts. And I can't see Anderson going head-to-head and trying to create a big battle, to go join Bellator or something like that. So what I think we might see is maybe some boxing or something along those lines. Perhaps even that Roy Jones Jr. fight that he's always wanted to have. I mean, Roy's obviously getting back in there at this point. Heck, they could even put it on Fight Pass. I'm not sure if the finances would work on that or not. But those are all options. So I think we see him compete in some way again in combat sports. I just don't think it'll be in the UFC, and I don't think it'll be for another high-level mixed martial arts organization.
45 years of age, George. He's had plenty of fights as well, and he's had a few knockouts. Should he be fighting again, do you think?
Well, after watching him compete this weekend, he took it serious. He came in good shape. I thought at times he was competing nicely, and a few judges even gave him some rounds. But I agree with John. I don't think we've seen the end of it. It wasn't in Anderson who wanted to, let the cards play out a little bit and see what his options are. It was an Anderson who knew that as far as the UFC is concerned, he's done. But what are his options outside? It's going to be refreshing on this Spinning Back Clique to probably not hear Bellator, because I think I know where Goes is heading. But I think one championship is an option for him. He's got a couple of former foes over there. Rich Franklin, who's mid-40s as well. I think probably that's a huge long shot if I'm being honest. But Vitor Belfort, I bet you he'd love to run it back. And the hydration system they used out there, I think they could have both safe weight cuts, and they could go out there and perform and give the fans of one championship a show.
Yeah, there are options out there, Goes. Which one do you think he might take, and do you think he should?
I honestly think he could maybe put together 1, 2 more. They have to really make sense. I'm one of those guys that always leans on the side of when it's time to go, it's time to go. But he didn't look all that bad. I'm very confused by hearing Dana White's analysis of that fight, because I didn't think he looked that bad in that fight. Here's what I would pitch. I would ask Dana White, reconsider, man. It's one fight left. It doesn't have to happen right away. But the one fight that I want to sell you guys, I'd love to see him retire in Brazil and hopefully with the fans back. And the one name that kind of just lingers out there is Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva probably aren't in the same position they were back then when they fought 2 times, but they're in somewhat similar positions. Why not run that one back for a 3rd time and send Anderson off that way?
That would be an interesting way for him to go, and obviously doing it in front of the Brazilian fans, I think, would be richly deserved for a man with an incredible career, a surefire Hall of Famer. Now, guys, speaking of MMA retirements, it doesn't seem that long ago that we were talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov, and at the time, I think most of us were in agreement that his decision to call time on his career looked like a genuine one when he was in the cage talking to John Anik at UFC 254. But here we are now, a little over a week on from that moment. Dana White is telling us that he's still the UFC lightweight champion. There's not going to be an interim title anytime soon. And he thinks that Khabib might just come back and chase after that 30th straight win. So when you heard that news, guys, what was your immediate reaction? And if Khabib is going to return, who do you want to see him standing across the cage from as he goes for 30-0? We'll put 3 minutes on the clock for this one. George, you can go first.
Man, I would have loved to hear what that call was all about, but I imagine it was all straight up money, maybe a few UFC gyms. I don't even think it should stop at 30-0. He looks so good. I'd love to see him go for 35-0. But look, one fight at a time. I guess I'll take the low-hanging fruit. Conor McGregor beats Dustin Poirier. The UFC is going to throw a lot of money at both guys to make that fight happen. So I guess that's the one. There's other options. The guys I'm sure will tackle those, but I can't see that that's not the pitch that Dana White made to Khabib on this phone call.
Yeah, there are plenty of options at 55, and they've got to sort it all out, Goes. But I mean, do you think he should be coming back now after such an earnest-looking retirement announcement? And who should he fight if he does?
I think he needs to take a little bit more time. And you're right, there are a lot of people at 155 that he could fight. But my brain is working a little different. I'd want to see him come back maybe at 165, maybe even at 170. Listen, Khabib is not the type of guy to just make these decisions on the fly. I'm sure he thought about it. So I think this semi-retirement will last for a little bit. But when he comes back, and that phone call that George was alluding to, I have to imagine at some point, maybe the name George St. Pierre was thrown out there. Because look, if he's going for 30-0, if that number means a lot, then that means his legacy probably means a lot. And this is hitting two birds with one stone, right? You take on one of the greats that we put up against him for pound, for GOAT talk. And I mean, it's a new challenge. It's something fresh for him. So I would say if you throw that name, George St. Pierre, out there, I think you could have fun with that. He could come back. And that's if he has the mindset of, I'm coming back for one more. If he does more, then yeah, put him at 155.
Yeah, it's big question marks now. It looks as if a line had been drawn under his career, John, and now all bets are off. I mean, how quickly does this need to be resolved for the benefit of the 155-pound division? And what direction would you take this in?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got a little bit of time. I did like what Dana said about, like, look, we're not rushing to put a belt on anybody right now. Khabib has earned that. Khabib has earned the right to sort through his feelings and to sort through his emotions. So give him a little bit of time. And we'll see how it plays out. For me, ideally, I would like to see George St. Pierre at 155 pounds. I mean, for all the reasons that Go said, but the flip side of it at 155 would be GSP going for those 3 title fights, which 3 championships, I should say, in 3 weight classes, which would be pretty damn amazing. So there would be history for him as well. The biggest money would be Conor McGregor, no question about it. 2 global superstars, that'd be the biggest money fight you can make, but I don't think Khabib wants to put himself through that nonsense again. So I don't see him jumping for that. So if it's not GSP, and he'd probably have to win one first to get it. But what about Tony Ferguson? Can we book it again one more time? I mean, we've already got through this damn pandemic. What's the worst that could happen, man? I'd say maybe give Tony Ferguson one last shot. That'd be a hell of a send-off for both guys, maybe.
It'd be the DVD extra or the Blu-ray extra for Khabib's MMA career, finishing his career and then coming back just to clear up that family business with Tony Ferguson. I'd love to see that. But moving on from that, another big piece of news coming out of the weekend, guys, came when UFC President Dana White revealed that Israel Adesanya is going to be moving up to 205 pounds to challenge Jan Blachowicz for the UFC light heavyweight title next time out. It's a fight that offers a huge upside for both guys, obviously. But is it the right fight to make for the UFC and for the fans? Lots of options for Blachowicz at 205. And Adesanya obviously has plenty of options on his plate at 185 or John Jones or 205. So let's get your quick fire takes on this one. How would you have booked Adesanya and Blachowicz separately in their next respective matchups? We'll do 2 minutes on the clock, so we'll keep it nice and short. Goes, lead us off.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that fight, guys, especially when I heard it. It just didn't make much sense. And to be honest, I don't think the UFC really thinks it makes much sense either. To me, them putting that out is kind of their way of delivering some news to the doorstep of one John Jones. Get your act together because we got other options here. So I don't like the matchup, but if I had to go in different routes for each guy, I mean, I think it's pretty clear in Blachowicz' category. There's 2 guys that are waiting, the winner of Teixeira and Santos. That makes the most sense. And then if Robert Whittaker isn't ready to go, then this is the time you make the John Jones fight. It's the perfect timing for it. But if he is ready to go, he damn well deserves that fight, and I would give it to him for sure. Robert Whittaker would be next for Adesanya.
What do you reckon, John? Is this part of an elaborate squeeze play on John Jones to sort of flush him out and get him to say, do you know what, I'll take the fight? Or are we actually going to see this?
I don't think it's a squeeze play. I just think it's the right play to get to that fight that I think we want to see, which is Jones versus Adesanya. I like this booking, to be honest with you. Whitaker said he's not ready to go until 2021, so this gives Adesanya champ opportunity. That's big. Plus, if he wins the title, now you get John Jones maybe not thinking about heavyweight, but coming back down on a light heavyweight as well. No disrespect to Teixeira or Maheta. You're right about those guys being number one, but that's not going to be a big sell with Blachowicz on the other side of the cage. This is the biggest money fight you can make, and it leads potentially to Adesanya versus Jones, which would be massive.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're Jan Blachowicz, you're rubbing your hands together. This is a huge fight. I know he called out John Jones initially, but he's got Israel Adesanya. That's not too bad at all. So big payday for him. George, is this the right fight for everybody concerned?
It appears that way because Whitaker was the clear number one, so that's who we all wanted to see. He can't go. I think Joker Hermanson would have been nice coming off one win. I mean, he had a streak before the loss to Cannonier, but that's kind of a force. But, the UFC's done these force plays before, so it wouldn't have been outrageous. And, yeah, I would have wanted to see the Teixeira-Santos winner against Blachowicz. That said, I'm into the matchup. Izzy looks like he has that trajectory to be a superstar and being a champ at some point in his career.
Yeah, it's going to be a big fight. Someone's going to walk away with a big payday and a pretty big win on their record. Now, guys, Saturday night was a big night for Greg Hardy, who, despite having to deal with a load of issues outside of the cage in the lead up to his fight with Maurice Green, produced arguably the best performance of his UFC career to date to get a big knockout win and move one step closer to a fight against some of the division's biggest names. The question for you guys is he ready to be thrown in there with top 15 opposition, or does he need a little bit more seasoning before you chuck him in with the division's big guns? Play matchmaker for me, guys, and let me know who you'd like to see him take on next. We'll do 2 more minutes on the clock for this. And John, you can lead us off.
All right, I understand that Greg Hardy's a polarizing figure, and there's a lot of people that are going to be cheering for his demise no matter what he does. But if you could take that out of the equation and just look at him as a martial artist, I think you'd have to admit that he's getting better every time out. Clearly, he's got a lot of natural athleticism. You don't make it to the NFL without having some of that, and he displays it. But he's refining his technique as well. I think he is ready, not for the top of the division. I'm not ready to say this guy is championship caliber, but in terms of like top 15, I do think that he's earned the right to have names like that. I look at the MMA Junkie rankings, really the only rankings you should be paying attention to, period. And I look at names like Walt Harris, Blagoy Ivanov, somebody in that kind of level. And I think Greg Hardy has kind of earned the right to face somebody at that level. Not ready for the top of the division, but I think he's top 15.
George, you in agreement with that? Do you think he's ready to just sort of face someone towards the bottom end of those rankings?
He nailed it perfectly. Olenek is the other name of those three because they go from 15 to 10 that I would concentrate on, not the top 10 just yet. It's funny how fighting works out, though, because if Hardy does finish him in the first round, I think we'd all be thinking, yeah, let's start really giving him those names. But, Volkov checked them, and I think he still needs a little bit more seasoning. But if not, isolate on those 3 names. I like that move. I think that would be the right play for him. The UFC pays him a lot of money, so they may want to usher him a little closer, to the front and a little bit faster. But no, I like what John was saying. 10 to 15, those rankings, they are the best. I agree, John.
Yeah, and kudos to Dean Thomas, who's doing an absolutely great job with Greg Hardy, and you can see the progression fight to fight. Goes, do you think he's ready for a step up?
He's ready for a little bit of a step up, but not all the way. The guy can compete. I mean, most heavyweights can. They hit so hard that, you put just about any of them up there, they have a shot. But that's not really what a guy like Greg Hardy's looking for. I think he wants to not only win a title, but be dominant and have some sort of reign. And I don't think he can do that right now. He needs a little bit more seasoning, but he is getting better with every fight. I do kind of like the Walt Harris fight because I just feel like it's one guy dropping down a little bit, another guy dropping up, and them meeting in the middle. Yeah,
interesting to see the next move for the Prince of War. And finally, guys, it was a busy week for MMA. Across the board, Bellator were in action on Thursday night. One Championship welcomed back their stars in Singapore on Friday. And a certain member of the spinning Back Clique panel was pulling double duty in Philadelphia on Thursday and Friday night at Cage Fury Fighting Championships. It meant there was a ton of MMA to consume this weekend. So from the non-UFC events on offer this week, what was your favorite MMA moment? We'll put 2 more minutes on the clock to finish off. And George, you can go first.
Well, I'm going to sound like a one championship cheerleader, but that, I watched Bellator. I was a little let down by Mousasi and Lima. I was expecting a little bit more there. But one championship, it was worth waking up early. They had 2 champions hang on to their belt. two that lost their belt, but I really like seeing the Lee family doing what they're doing. Christian Lee looked great. He defeated the undefeated Yuri Lapicus, and he took it to him because everybody thought Lapicus is the one that you got to look out for in those first 90 seconds. It was the other way around.
Yeah, Lapicus, loads of first-round finishes on his record, and Lee just went straight at him, and great performance from Christian Lee. Goes, what was your pick?
Well, look, the main event of Bellator was a little bit of a letdown, but there was a kind of a silver lining in all that. I'm not a big fan of the whole champ thing in Bellator, and I think it kind of restored order a little bit there for a little bit. Mousasi fought the type of fight that he needed to fight, and I liked some of the stuff. My favorite moment was just the post-fight press conference, the things that he talked about. He was very truthful about Douglas Lima and just how tough of a fight it was, and he did say he took his foot off the gas a little bit. It's a little different from what we're used to hearing, so it was kind of nice to hear him keep it real.
Yeah, reunited with his belt at 185 pounds. John, you saw a few fights this weekend. What was your magic moment?
I'm homering all day, baby. CFFC. If you didn't check it out, I'm telling you, CFFC 86 and 87 on Fight Pass Go. We got the call back-to-back knockout of the year contenders, Johan Lioness, Paris Artist. Brutal knockouts. We saw an amazing performance from Eddie Torres. Trujillo picked up the flyweight belt over a guy that I thought was a can't miss in Santo Curatolo. Now he's going to have to go back to the drawing boards. I'm telling you, it was nonstop action for 2 straight nights, myself and CM Punk on it. Hopefully we made it entertaining enough. Go check out CFFC. I'm homering. That's all it is.
No, I watched both events back to back today during my shift. It was a whole lot of fun. If you've got Fight Pass, get on there and you will not be disappointed. That is about all we have time for on Spinning Back Clique this week. A huge thank you to Gorgeous George, to Goes, and to John Morgan. Check out the site all week long for coverage of UFC on ESPN Plus 40. Big fight in the UFC light heavyweight division in the main event. Glover Teixeira and Thiago Marreta Santos in the main event. That's all we've got time for this week. Thanks for checking out Spinning Back Clique. We will be back next week.